Hi, I'm Luanne Sims, and welcome to Life After Baby on 1520 AM WCHE and streaming live on WCHE1520.com. From bottles to books, spit up to social media, diapers to dorms, and everything in between, each week I interview local parenting experts. Today's guests are Kirsten and Jackie. Jackie and Kirsten are the duo responsible for Beyond the Bookends, a blog for those who love reading and want to share their love of reading with others. Welcome, Kirsten and Jackie.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming in today. Jackie is a transplant from Toronto and a mother of three. Is that correct?
I am. I have a 10-year-old and 12-year-old sons, and my daughter is 7.
Okay, so 3 kids, 10, 12, and 7.
Yes.
And Kirsten, you're a Philly native?
I am.
And how many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids, both boys, 5 and 7 years
5
old.
and 7. All right, so you're both in the elementary school phase, is that right?
Yeah, well,
Or you have one.
And I do. I have a middle schooler. He's going into 7th grade.
Okay, excellent. All right, so, and you tell us about Beyond the Bookends. I got to take a look around your blog here, and there's lots of good information on it. So tell us about the goal of the blog and what you do on there.
So we started it really because we had found that people in our community were constantly asking us for book recommendations. We're both big readers. I read, I think Jackie, probably the same, over 100 books last year. And we really wanted a forum to kind of tell everyone the books that we recommended, get recommendations from other people, and then just, have a discussion around reading and all the adventures that it inspires.
Yeah, so one of the things that we do a lot of the time is we read books with our kids, and then we do adventures that are related to the books to get them more excited about reading. So we play equally to adults and kids,
yes,
I think.
And we've been known to go on mommy adventures, we call them too. So if we are reading The Hunger Games, we might go rock climbing afterwards to kind of tie in.
I thought you were going to say have a Hunger Games.
No.
Okay. What a cool idea. So mothers and kids come together. Tell us a little bit more about that. A mommy adventure, you invite just parents to come or just
Yeah,
mothers
we'll
and
do
children?
it with our own children or together as a group or with some of our groups of friends, and then we put the content out there so other people can do it. So if we're reading, it's so simple. If you're reading a book about ice cream, we would encourage you to then involve your kids in making an ice cream sundae or head out to Turkey Hill to the ice cream factory and go and make your own ice cream and experience it out there. So kind of tying in that reading to a real life activity.
That is a fantastic idea. I can only remember doing that once. My kids are 12 and 14, but when they were in young elementary school, somebody brought home a book about eating dinner in the bathtub. And, it was one of those, I'm not saying it was an award-winning book, but we ended up eating dinner in the bathtub that night.
Oh, my goodness.
Which they still talk about. That was
I have to figure out what that book is.
I know.
I'll see if one of them remember, and we can get you the title. But
yes,
but I
please.
never thought of expanding it beyond something like that, especially for some books that are more challenging or maybe they're not as interested in reading.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we have such culture here in Philly and the surrounding region. There are so many really fun places to go with our kids. Valley Forge, we'll read about George Washington's teeth. Do you remember when we did that?
We did that. It was really fun.
And then we took them to go see his headquarters in Valley Forge.
And we had a picnic. And we read the book, and the kids loved it. And all the kids loved it, from the littlest to my middle schooler. Loved it. They had the best time.
This is fantastic. And then they can say that we're really on the spot where he was. Wow.
Yeah. So we just tie it in really fun ways.
Absolutely fantastic. All right. I love that. So tell us about your kids. How old were your kids when you started reading to them, and how did you get them involved? Did you start when they were babies or?
Oh, yeah. Definitely babies. I have video of myself reading Jamberry, which is this fabulous book that I have memorized in my head, to my child. And I had it memorized, so I would just show him the pictures, and when he was probably 6 weeks old. Because you have books, especially black and white ones, that are really good for developing their sight. And then when you're reading to them, your voice, it connects you with them, and then they learn about inflection and how, language is. And it's so important to do it every single day.
I mean, I may or may not have read to my kids while they were in my stomach.
Yeah.
Did you really?
I did. But you know what? I felt like I wanted them to know the sound of my voice in a more rhythmic and soothing way than listening to me all day when I was working, especially with my oldest. I was at a skilled nursing facility, so that wasn't soothing, and
Right,
I
you went
wanted him
from-
to have like a different. I sang to my stomach also.
I love that.
embarrassed to
Right,
admit
because
that.
I wouldn't want mine to hear me yelling at my husband. I'll,
Right,
add
right,
in the
exactly,
good stuff as
exactly,
well, the comforting
exactly.
things. What about you two as children? Were you avid readers, or is this something you picked up later in life?
Oh no, I was an avid reader for
Yeah.
always.
Yes.
So what's your favorite childhood series? I know what mine were.
Well, I mean, there's like Harry Potter, which is kind of.
Well, I mean, when you read when you were a kid.
No,
Does
see,
that not count? Does that not count? No, I was a baby when that came. No, I wasn't. I was in middle school.
She's so much younger than me that she was in middle school, and I was married when the last Harry Potter came out. So,
I'm glad I'm not the only. I was getting upset because I'm thinking there's no way that any adult could have been a child when Harry Potter came out, but it's possible, right?
no, this baby over here was still in middle school.
All right, fair enough. I'll let you
Anne
say
of Green
Harry Potter.
Gables. That
Anne
was
of
probably
Green
my
Gables.
favorite. And the Babysitter's Club. I still have my original Babysitter's Club
Babysitter's
books.
Club.
It was funny because I feel like when I was younger, there weren't as many books for middle schoolers as there were. So I remember reading a lot of the Beverly Cleary and all of those when I was really young, and Nancy Drew.
Yep.
But I felt like there wasn't really a lot of middle school choices when I was younger compared to now when I go for my kids. And there is everything you could possibly imagine for a child who likes every topic on the planet.
That is so very true, and I agree with you. But I do look back at I have some of the same characters, Beverly Cleary and Judy Blume and Nancy Drew, and even I'm old enough I had some Bobbsey twins back in my day. But those characters have stayed with me, and I'm not kidding when I say they're still part of my life. The ones like the Ramona books I read 20, 30 times a piece, just my whole childhood, and I definitely think of those moments all the time.
And they stand the test of time, I find. My kids love Ramona. They love Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which I remember loving when I was little. We just finished reading that. Now we're reading Matilda. My kids love that.
Yes.
Excellent.
So certain books really, really stay with you, and you can carry that on from your childhood to them, and I think that's the best.
Absolutely. All right, so since we're talking about favorite books from our childhoods, even those of us who are still very young,
Thank you.
what are your favorite newer books that are out there now for your kids? So you have kids of slightly different ages, so let's talk maybe elementary and then middle school. What are some of your favorite series that you would recommend for people that don't know?
Series
or books or single books.
Okay, because there's a picture book out there that I actually love. I don't think you like it very much, but my kids, as boys, they like The Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors.
Oh, I don't know this
Which
one.
is a fantastic story about the game Rock, Paper, Scissors, and it puts this whole mythical spin onto it. And so they have, how did this game come about, and how did these warriors come to be? And it's really funny. I laugh out loud.
She laughs.
I think it's amazing.
And it's one of the very few books that I bought that I don't like reading out loud. I like reading it to myself, but for some reason I can't stand reading it out loud. I just let my kids read it to themselves.
The dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets, though. They fight the kitchen scissors, and it's epic.
So that leads me to another question, actually, because my kids were given a lot of books, and some of them you pick up, and they're like a song. They're beautiful. They're so easy to read, and they're so much fun to read. And then others, and I can think of some in particular, that were just painful. You know, when your kid brings you the book, you think, and you're skipping pages and just trying to get through it because they're so painful to read. How can you tell when you get beyond the point where it's a board book that you can easily flip through in a bookstore? Are there any things to look for to determine whether something's going to be good or not good?
I say talk to your local bookseller. Or to us. Feel free to talk to us. But I find the best books come from my indie booksellers. We go specifically for us, Children's Book World.
Okay.
And we'll go in and we'll say, my kid really likes magic. What kind of books do you have for me? And you don't necessarily want the fuddy-duddy ones or the ones that you've seen a million times. I'm kind of not into Dr. Seuss as much for some of the length, but you can get that rhyming, and you can say, like, I want a magic book that's about rhyming that has a girl and as the lead and an older wizard friend or something, and they will tell you exactly what book you need.
No, I was there today with my 3 kids because they all came home from camp and they all needed new books. So we headed over there, and my oldest son, he makes our reading look like nothing. I think he's read maybe 300 books this year. Wow. He reads probably a book a day. He's very, very avid reader. And he went in and he went up to them and said, these are the books that I love, and I've read almost everything here, and they were so fantastic. She said, I have a whole bunch of stuff for you. She went down into the basement, pulled out a stack of books and gave them to him and let him look through so he could find some books, which is really hard because he's read almost everything.
Excellent.
And that's what you don't get when you go to like an Amazon, because they're just going to suggest something based on, oh, you bought this author before, but what if you bought it and you didn't like it? You can go in and they will help you.
Very true.
Exactly.
Jackie, I skipped over you. Do you have a favorite book or a favorite series that you would like to talk about?
Oh, well, so many. If we're talking about picture books, I love Chris Van Dusen so much. His books all rhyme, and I think they're brilliant, and they have big vocabulary words in there so that the kids are learning. But all my kids, as soon as I say to them, they can recite the first few words or the first few pages actually of the books. So I love him. And then I don't know, if we're talking about middle school books, I could go on forever.
Yeah. Do you so you have 5 kids between the two of you. Are there any reluctant readers in your group? Anyone that you had to work a little harder to get engaged?
Yes, my middle child is a reluctant reader, and I'm not sure why. And it's funny because I've been reading to him since he was very little, and he will still let me read to him, but he does not want to read by himself. So again, the indie bookstores, they are fantastic because they sit with him and ask him what he likes and gave him a whole choices, and he's now excited to read some of the books that he chose out for himself.
So you can see progress or change. In
Absolutely, and it's such an important part of development. You know, once they hit 4th and 5th grade, they're no longer learning how to read. They're reading to learn. And for children who don't have the luxury of being able to read or have someone read to them, it can delay development of language, of understanding, impede them in school. So, I mean, I really do think it's a luxury.
Yeah. Now, what about, here's a problem that I have that I'd like your advice on. Do you keep all of the books that you purchase, or do you move them on? I have a daughter who treats them like they're her children, and she cannot get rid of a book, and it's overwhelming my tiny house. So what's your routine for that? Do you
I'm sort of a hoarder when it comes to books, but I do go through probably twice a year, and I kind of hold it, and it's like the spark joy kind of thing from Marie Kondo. Although she says you can't have more than like 30 books, which is absolutely insane. And I'll hold the book and I'll look at it and I'll say, okay, do I know someone that's maybe younger that would really like this board book now that my kids have like gone past it, or just you got to get them involved in it, but I also do it a little bit behind their back.
Yeah, try to.
Well, I find that what I do is I go through, and once the books are no longer age appropriate, I will pick out our absolute favorites that I know later on my kids are still going to want to read and they're going to want to look at, and the rest of them I find somewhere to donate them, because there are so many schools, there are so many places that don't have the resources to purchase books that and I know you're very involved also.
Oh yes, there's a place downtown actually called Treehouse Books. And it's right by the Temple campus, and if you donate your books there, they can come in and anyone can take books and take them home to their children.
Excellent. Like a free exchange. That's very good to know. I have a box in my car. We are going to need to take a break, but we will be back with more on Life After Baby on 1520 AM, WCHE, streaming live on WCHE1520.com. Welcome back to Life After Baby on 1520 AM WCHE and streaming live on WCHE1520.com. This is Life After Baby. I'm Luanne Sims, and I'm here with Jackie and Kirsten from Beyond the Bookends. Before we get back to discussing reading and children, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, A Taste of Olive. They have 2 locations, one in Chestnut Hill and one right here in Westchester Borough. They have high-quality balsamics and olive oils from around the world. You can order online at atasteofolive.com, and you can use the coupon code FAMILY for 10% off your order at atasteofolive.com. So thank you to them. And here we are back. We're talking about some of our favorite books as children and favorite books for our children. What about favorite books on parenting? Do you have any suggestions for people looking for parenting advice?
Yes.
We do. So there were a few books that I used actually when my kids were really, really little. One of them was Happiest Baby on the Block, and that was Harvey Karp. And it actually came also with a CD that was the sound of rain that my kids still listen to at night, and that was really, really helpful. And also Healthy Sleep Habits, Happy Child.
I swear by that one.
Both.
That saved your life?
Yes.
The book had to be thrown out because the pages fell out because I read it so many times. It was really, really, really helpful.
So let's say that again, because I imagine that there may be several people listening who are in great need of this book right now. Whose
Healthy
children...
Sleep Habits, Happy Child. It's Mark Weisbluth, and he walks you through how to get your child on a sleep schedule, and I swear it will make your life just better and different and in the best way possible.
And in a way, so I had a problem when I was a new mom. I did not want to let my kids scream, and a lot of places say, okay, just put them down and let them scream and they'll cry themselves out, and it literally gave me a panic attack listening to my child screaming. And I loved this book because it really, really helped develop a schedule, understand what a baby needs, and how to get them to teach themselves to fall asleep without torturing yourself and them.
Outstanding.
Yes, and in his routine at night, because one of his big things is separating the bottle from bedtime, he suggests that you read a book to your child in between the bottle and bedtime, and we fully support that.
Perfect. And I could have used that book 14 years ago, let me tell you. I would have fewer wrinkles and would be smarter. I lost a lot of sleep the first year.
So, I mean, I don't know if you want a few more.
Sure.
There's also a book called The Worry Book, The Worry Workbook for Kids, and it's by Dr. Deborah Ledley and Dr. Kana, and it's a really fabulous way to help kids work through some anxiety. Because I think a lot of kids develop anxiety about one thing or another at some point throughout their childhood, and this is a way to help them work through it and not make them feel like there's something wrong with them, but it's totally normal, and we can work through it and get past it.
Excellent. What age is that one applied to?
I think it can be if you're working with your kid, any from first grade and up. And I mean, you can look at the book and you could probably adapt it to for some younger kids too.
Excellent.
And there's actually a lot of picture books out now that kind of target even younger kids for those basic anxieties of going to school for the first time, of how to deal with anger, of how to express your feelings through drawing. There's all kinds of books out there that's a big one.
Yeah, I love that they have that now. I remember when my kids were little going to the library right before school started, and every first day of school book would be checked out already. I was always too late to get them, but that's awesome that there are so many resources like that. Okay, now how about one of the things you mentioned at the beginning that I can't let go of? You both read more than 100 books in the past year, and you both have multiple children. How did you do that? How did you find the time? That's really
audiobooks. We read a bunch of audiobooks. So I listen, and I listen on like 1.5 speed because my brain just works faster than they speak. So I speed it up. When I'm doing laundry, when I'm in the car, when I'm making dinner, I just put on an audiobook and I listen.
Headphones?
Headphones.
So you walk around.
Sometimes headphones. Sometimes I just play it over my Alexa. If you have Alexa and you have Audible, they sync together.
Okay.
Or I'll just play it out of my phone in my back pocket, carrying it around.
And just always listening to a book.
And we read a lot too.
Read a lot too. My kids are getting older, so once we say goodnight, they don't call me to their room anymore. So
Because you read the sleep book.
Yes, because I read the sleep book. And I don't watch a lot of television.
That's the key right there.
So I would rather read. I find reading so much better for my brain than watching television. TV makes me numb. And when I'm reading, there's always something going on. And that's what I do at night.
Absolutely. I have found that I've done better since I put my phone downstairs when I go to bed at night and use an old-fashioned alarm clock. But I still get 2 to 3 pages in, and I just pass out.
Yes,
Tired.
that's true.
I love reading, but it also makes me sleepy. So I just read I think in July, I finished a novel I'd been working on since Christmas. So I'm a little embarrassed by that, given that you're 99 books ahead of me.
Don't be embarrassed.
No,
any
don't.
reading is reading. Any reading is reading, whether you're reading like a page a day or 100 pages a day. Just having the time to sit down and even take 2 minutes to yourself to read a page of a book.
Now, are you able to have multiple books going at once?
Oh yeah, I read about 8 at the same time.
8 at the same time?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't read that many, but I think of it kind of like a TV show. Like you're not just going to sit and only watch one TV show. So I'll listen to a thriller, and then I'll be reading a fantasy, and then I'll also be reading, a historical fiction. So they're all completely different.
I love it. Now, do you have, if you had one fiction piece, let's say, for a mom to get her re-engaged in reading? Maybe she hasn't had the time in many years, you've been working, you get out of the groove. What's your favorite go-to that everybody will love?
Everybody
That is
will
so
love.
hard.
That's a hard one.
I can think of 2.
Okay, what are your
You can
two?
say 2. You can say 2.
Okay, so my first is my all-time favorite book ever. It's called Hum If You Don't Know the Words.
Oh, I love
by Bianca Murray.
Okay.
And she is also, she's a Torontonian now, but she was born in South Africa, and her book is just so phenomenal. It's just phenomenal, so.
Okay.
I would go a little lighter. So I'm really into the royal family. And I think especially when people are coming from like TV and reality TV and you're trying to like get into reading, I like The Royal We.
The Royal We,
great
okay.
It is. It's a good book.
It's a
good
really
book.
fun, drama-filled, great book about Will's and Kate's faux relationship.
Okay. All right.
What about your other favorite? I thought you were going to say
What?
7 Husbands.
Oh, The Seven Husbands of
Seven
Evelyn
Husbands.
Hugo.
Yes.
That's a great one, too. It's an Elizabeth Taylor type character, and she has 7 husbands, and her life is told through the story of her 7 husbands, and it's good. There's a lot of meat in the story, but it's still romantic and fun.
And easy to read. It's Taylor Jenkins Reid.
Okay, excellent. You've just given me some new options. I have no business asking because I literally have 20 books next to my bed that I am behind on, and I keep adding to the pile, but I'll have to get to those. We only have a few minutes left, but I'd like to get to a segment that we like to call It Takes a Village. A lot of us in our own homes think that we're the only ones struggling with something, or our kid is the only one struggling with a certain problem. So we like to come together and share advice and solutions because more often than not, we're all experiencing the same thing to one degree or another. So we touched on this a little bit, but very often there are kids that are very reluctant readers. Maybe the parents are not as engaged as the two of you are in reading, so they've not been exposed as much. Let's talk about some ways that we can help students, young or older, who are reluctant readers, especially when they have an assignment from school, maybe a novel or something that they have to get through. I have one child who is a voracious reader who has usually already read whatever the school assignment is. And then I have another who he's not reluctant to get started, but 6 weeks later, he's still on chapter 1, and he sees his Rubik's Cube and gets distracted and just has trouble staying engaged. So So let's talk some more about some tips for getting those. And I have some comments from one of our Facebook groups that others have chimed in on with things that have worked in their families to get kids involved. One of them was, this is from Amy, make a deal with your child to take them to the bookstore. And you talked about how effective your independent bookstores are with your own children and how helpful the employees are there. But make a deal with your child where they get to go and pick out a book. If you're just trying to get them to read some more, they get to pick out a book, and when they complete it, you'll take them back and buy them another one. And you kind of keep that sequence going, because even if you're a reluctant reader, people like sometimes to have new things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And pick out a cover.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I've always found, I have not done well in picking out books for my son. I have many times gotten things for holidays or birthdays thinking that this is going to really engage him, but I find that he does much better when he picks them out himself.
Yes.
Do you find the same with your kids?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you have to be willing to go with what they like. So I didn't love, my son went through a phase of wanting to read graphic novels. And I was like, no, it's not really a book. Or, I want you to read like a real chapter book. And then I kind of was like, you know what? I'm not going to push him. This is what he wants to do. So he went through that phase, and now he's reading Harry Potter. So my second son is actually still reading graphic novels. And we went today, there are some amazing graphic novels, literally the Odyssey. They made it into a graphic novel. So I told him he needed to pick graphic novels that were a little bit higher level language, but he was very happy with that. The other thing that I did with him that worked really, really well was letting him read, and I'm using air quotes, the book while listening to it on Audible or listening to an audiobook. So I had a copy of Harry Potter. It was the fourth one, and it was very daunting for him as a reluctant reader, but he was very happy to follow along in the book while Jim Dale read it. Jim Dale is an amazing, amazing audiobook narrator. He does every voice, and it was completely engaging. And he read the entire Harry Potter, which is, 700 pages? Yes.
Wow.
And audiobooks count. They say that it gives you the same stimulation in your brain as physically reading the book.
It does. I was going to ask you that. So that's a really good technique.
And if you read together as a family, too, if you want to go on a car ride and you put on an audiobook that the whole family will love, then your reluctant reader might get more into it because everyone else in the family is like, oh, what's the next chapter? And we have to wait for everyone to read it together.
Right, and you want to feel like you're in the loop and like you're part of what's going on.
And it's important to point out that your local library will have audiobooks on for free. So you don't necessarily have to go out and purchase the audiobook. You can get them for free from your library and listen to them from your phone.
Excellent. And I know, when we've done that, and maybe things have changed in the last couple of years since I got one, but they used to give a little packet, like a little electronic box, like a little unit that you listened on.
Oh, yeah, they did used to do that.
And I guess that's changed now.
Now
but,
it's all digital.
Oh, my kids loved that, though. They loved those little things. It was like a little Walkman, I don't know, with an audiobook on it, but never mind if that's changed. And we just have time for one more tip here. This was from Kelly, and this was, if your child has to read a book for school or you're just trying to encourage reading, come together with them and maybe read side by side. Make a comfortable space. Everybody gets a cup of hot chocolate or something to make yourself comfortable. And even if you're not reading the same thing, to sit together, and maybe the whole family is reading, so they don't feel like they're banished to their room to do something they don't want to do.
Idea. Yeah.
Absolutely. We do have family reading time. And everyone gets out a book, and we get into bed or all get on the couch, and we all sit down and read just to make sure everybody gets in their reading time. And by everybody, I mean my one middle child, because the rest of them read for hours every day. So,
but I think you touch on the point that kids are more likely to do what their parents are doing. So if you want your kid to read, then you should read in their presence and not necessarily on your phone, but like a physical book on the sofa, sit and read it, and you might find that your kid starts cuddling up to you and reading alongside you.
I love it. I love it. I am so sad that we're out of time, because I feel like I could talk for much longer about reading. Thank you so much to Jackie and Kirsten from Beyond the Bookends. And your website is?
BeyondTheBookends.com.
Easy to remember, BeyondTheBookends.com. Thank you for tuning in to Life After Baby. Life After Baby was created by Leslie Hudson, hosted by Luanne Sims, and produced by Kyle Hudson. We'd like to thank Jackie and Kirsten for joining us today. And as I said, you can find them online at beyondthebookends.com or on Instagram at beyondthebookends. When the kids are finally asleep tonight, visit our website at lifeafterbabyshow.com. Find our podcast wherever the finest podcasts are found, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Life After Baby Show. And don't forget to take care of yourself so you can take better care of them.